What is up, guys? Matt here. Yeah, this video I've been wanting to do for a while. So a couple of videos back I did a video talking about the character progressions of the Dynasty Warriors games, and I think I might have said in that video that wasn't going to be the last video I did around that sort of thing. So in this video I'm actually going to be talking about characters that I think still need to be added to the series. Now I'm not necessarily going in like a importance order, and I'm probably not going to be able to give great explanations for some of the characters, whereas other characters are very obvious picks that honestly I'm baffled some of these characters haven't already made it into the game. And as I said in my previous video as well, it's not going to be completely evenly split, although I did try to make it somewhat fair in terms of balancing all the different faction numbers, bar one exception. So we're going to get straight into the video. I'm going to be doing it in order of Wei, Wu, Shu, Jin, Other, and then the special after that. I'm going to just be doing a brief sort of who they are, why I believe that they should be added to the game, and how significant they are. So we're going to go into it straight away. You're going to be able to see most of the list, so it's not going to be massive surprises, but we're going to be going down the list anyway. We'll just do the Wei first. Right, so top of the list, Cao Hong. Now I don't like this appearance. Hopefully they would change it for Dynasty Warriors. But honestly, I can't believe Cao Hong hasn't been made playable yet. Realistically, he should have been made playable like 4 or 5 games ago. He is another one of Cao Cao's cousins, along with Shahodun, Shahou Yuan, Cao Ren. He was one of the first officers with Cao Cao, on top of being one of his cousins with those guys. So the fact that they haven't made him playable yet, I couldn't believe. I'm almost positive in the next game they will make Cao Hong playable. That's pretty much why he's at the top of my list. Now, as to a moveset, I don't know. I mean, it's honestly, when it comes down to weapons in Dynasty Warriors, I'm really struggling to think up new weapons for characters, I'm not going to lie. So I don't know. He does seem like he would be a more... I think he would sort of lean towards a more heavy character, so maybe he would have like... I don't know. I mean, it says here, like, some of the weapons he's used in the games... But, we can't have more characters using, like, clubs and stuff. I think a greatsword could work with him because there's no way officer using a greatsword. The only character in the game that really used a greatsword was Guan Ping. So I think that would probably work for him. So yeah, Cao Hong is probably, I would say, the most likely Wei character to get added in the next game. So on next we've got Lady Beyond Sure. So another one that is quite unlikely, but I really think that she should be made playable. So she is one of Cao Cao's favourite concubines, obviously later wife. Cao Pi's mother. So obviously Cao Pi is the only son of Cao Cao we have in the game who is playable, so Beyond Sure is the most obvious choice for as a playable wife of Cao Cao. Now it says here that in her game, the Blast game, her weapon's a flute. Obviously Zheng Ji had a flute. I guess you could give her a flute as well, although you could maybe it would be a good idea to think up a unique weapon for her. I don't know what that would be, to be honest with you. I mean, maybe a small sharp weapon or something like that, but I don't know what. But yeah, she's quite. I think she should be made playable. Now, here's my reasoning behind her. Right, most of the other faction leaders have their wives playable. Uh, you have Sun Zhang playable as Liu Bei's wife. You have Leon Shi playable as Sun Xuan's wife. Duck Yao playable as Sun Sei's wife. Obviously Genji playable as Cao Pi's wife. Now the interesting thing about Genji is she was playable 2 games before Cao Pi. That's not happened with any of the other wives. The wives have always been made playable later on compared to their husbands, apart from the Cao Pi Genji thing, which is actually quite interesting. Who else have you got? Obviously you got Zhang, whatever the hell her name is, Sima Yi's wife. Then you got Wang Yuanji, Sima Zhao's wife. Zhu Rong is Meng Huo's wife, but that's not part of the logic that I was going along. So yeah, Beyond Shi should be made playable. Now, I will say now, I don't know who Sima Shi's wife is, and whoever she is, she's not on the list. I was talking about the main 3 kingdoms sort of wives, and that we'll be getting more onto that later on. So yeah, Beyond Shi, she should definitely be made playable. Cheng Yu. Now this is a weird one that I didn't initially think of, but it doesn't make him any less important. He was a very important advisor of Cao Cao's, and I think he actually had a part in Cao Cao recruiting like Guo Jia and like Jun Yu and all that. So very important advisor of Cao Cao's actually. I think we do have enough strategists in Wei, but I think Cheng Yu should definitely be like the last important one that they make playable. He seems to have quite a important role in the rise of Cao Cao. So yeah, again, he's a strategist. I don't know what weapon you would give him. That's going to be a theme for pretty much all the characters, because as I said, weapons I really don't know what you do with them. So we're getting on to the slightly more obscure ones. So this one is, you could probably argue against this one. So Cao Ru. Now Cao Ru is Cao Pi's son, and he was the second proper ruler of Wei. Now, I think it would be good to have a third sort of like Wei ruler, obviously Cao Pi's son after Cao Cao and Cao Pi. And after that, you don't really need to have any more. I think 3 Wei rulers is enough, especially since pretty much after Cao Ru, it basically becomes the Sima Yi and all that basically take over. So Cao Ru, I think, would be a good round off, and it would give us more playable characters in the later stages of the game. So that Cao Ru is another, I think, possible choice. So now we're getting on to the really obscure ones. So Cao Zhen. Now this is where it gets a bit like, these ones I think are sort of definitely not priorities, whereas the first like 4, they are pretty big priorities. These last 4, okay, once we've used up those 4, once we start really running out of characters, these guys should be in the forefront. So another officer of Wei, obviously, a nephew of Cao Cao, but notice this is a distant nephew, so not really close knit with the Cao family, but did say here that he rose to become Commander-in-Chief of the Western Armies at Wei, so clearly he still did have a quite, prominent role in Wei. Now, his model here looks quite interesting. So you can see that his design in the Blast games, I think it is, he's got quite an interesting design. He would be another heavy character. He definitely reminds me of Juju a lot. So maybe you could give him, I don't know what you could give him. I mean, it says here he has like giant sword again or bomb, but we've already pretty much really used it up. So you'd have to give him some sort of other heavy weapon. What that is, I don't know. But yeah, Cao Zhen, not a massive priority, but I think he would be a good choice once they really start running out of characters. Now, this is quite an interesting one. So, Cao Shun. So, he's the younger brother of Cao Ren. So, that's quite interesting. It'd be quite interesting to see him interacting along with Cao Ren and all those. Now, yeah, basically that's just it. It'd just be interesting to have him interact with Cao Ren and the rest of the Cao family and Shahol family. That's why he's sort of lower down on the list. So on to the last two. So this one, I mean, Shahol, so it's Shahol Shan. Now we could argue that we've got enough Shahol people, enough Shahol family members in the game. So this is Shahol Yuan's nephew, and he ruled the Southern Wei army basically, so quite important. Now, if there was one, I would put Shahol Dun's son in here, but apparently he didn't have any, which I don't believe, but they just don't appear anywhere. I can't find them, so I couldn't put one of those down. So instead, Shahol Shang was the option. Now, I could have done another one of Shahol Yuan's sons, but apparently this guy seems to be quite important, at least in the series. So finally, Wang Lang. Now this is quite an interesting one because he's been around. Like he's properly been around. So he initially ruled the Wu territory, and then he fled to Wei. Another thing here, it says he's Wang Yuanji's grandfather, so that's quite interesting, having a link to Jin there. Yes, he could be quite a interesting character. And he's around basically for quite a lot of the timeline. Sort of another strategist, but we could work around that. I definitely think his saving grace is his connection to Wang Yuanji, though. It's always, I think it's a good idea to have a couple of more characters from Wei connecting to Jin. So that was sort of my logic. Now we're going to go over this. So this is the actual Wei Kingdom information. Now, out of all the major generals that they list here, I don't necessarily agree with this list because they're missing quite a lot. The only one that's not playable at the moment is Cao Hong. Now, we go down here to the great generals of Wei and all that. We've got all these guys are playable. Okay. Cao Ren's playable, Cao Hong isn't playable, Cao Zhen isn't playable, Cao Shun isn't playable, Cao Shu is playable, Shahol Dun's playable, Shahol Yuan's playable, Shahol Shang's not playable. So that's why I put Shahol Shang in the list. And I think I did Zhen, and yeah, I did Shen, Shun, and Huang. So all of these guys should be made playable in my opinion. Going down to this list, again, all these guys except for Cao Hong are playable. For the advisors, Junyu's playable, Junyu's playable, Jiaju's playable, Guoji is playable, Simi Yi's playable. Zhongji, Lu Yi, Ji Kai, whatever you pronounce him, Cheng Yu's not playable. But I would put, we can't, we could arguably have all these guys, but as I said, Wave got enough strategists as it is. Let's have Cheng Yu as the last playable strategist. So that was sort of my logic behind that. So that was the Wei characters that I believe should be made playable. Moving on to the Wu characters. So first up, Lady Wu. Now this is sort of going back to the whole Beyond Sure reasoning. This is the reasoning behind that. Sun Jian is the only Wu ruler who doesn't have his wife playable for some reason. So it would make sense to have Sun Jian's wife playable. And I think it would be quite interesting coming up with his wife, because I really can't think of what you would make her out, how you'd make her out, because she's not in. We've got nothing to go on at all. The only thing I could think of is you sort of base her around Sun Zhangjiang. I guess that could work. Here's what I would probably do. So as we know, Sun Zhangjiang's original weapons were the hoops, right? The chakra. Sun Zhangjiang then, for like 1 or 2 games, went to using a bow, and then she went back to her hoops, I think. So maybe we give Sun Jian's wife the bow, and Sun Zhangjiang has the hoops. Or vice versa, I don't mind which. So yeah, Lady Wu, I believe, should be an addition to the game, and it would basically make all of the leaders of the 3 factions have their spouses. So that would be a good addition and basically complete the set. So moving on, Zhu Mao. Now this is an interesting one. I had literally not heard of this guy, but he's actually one of the OG officers with Sun Jian, like proper OG. He was with Sun Jian along with Cheng Pu, Han Dang, Huang Gai. He's proper OG Sun Jian. Yeah, I'd never heard of him. So I think he would be a very interesting choice to add. We want to sort of start completing sets of characters that work well together. So yeah, but as I said, I didn't even really know about this guy. In fact, I'll be honest with you. It says here his first actual appearance in the game was in 8. I didn't think I'd see him in any of the other games. So, I suppose you could argue whether we really need him, but, it's always cool to get some more Sun Jian sort of representatives in Wu, because Sun Jian doesn't get a lot of time. He doesn't get a lot of screen time, obviously, for all reasons. So I think we need to really start building up Sun Jian's sort of close-knit family. So, on to the next one. Now this is another one that I didn't really realise how important he is. So, Zhu Ji. So, he is related to Zhu Ran, sort of, which you could sort of tell by the Zhu thing. Served Sun Jian early on, and apparently participated in battles against Dong Zhuo, so you have another character around for the Dong Zhuo stuff, which is always cool. He served Sun Ce and Sun Quan as well, so obviously he's around for quite a long time. Yeah, basically he's just quite an important Wu officer that they need to make playable soon, really. And he's been in the game since 3, so he is an OG. He's been around. Apparently he's a strategist, so I suppose that's pretty cool. I mean, a lot of the Wu strategists tend to die in quick succession, so I suppose having another Wu strategist wouldn't really hurt. Yeah, it could be quite interesting. I think he should definitely be one of the more interesting characters. I mean, it even says here significant battles. He's in quite a lot of the important battles. You know, Yellow Turbans, Hulao, Cherbi, taking back the Jing province. You know, so yeah, Zhu, good pick. So this is quite an interesting one. Zhu Gaijin. Now, he's a Wu officer, but he's Xu Liang's brother. Now that's pretty crazy when you think about it. You know, Shu Minister, one of his brothers, is an officer for Wu. That is pretty crazy when you think about it. Yeah, another strategist for Wu again. Okay. But it's the whole Zhuge Liang thing. That is his main saving grace here for why he should really be made playable. Like, it'd be difficult to get him in many scenarios with Zhuge Liang, obviously, because apart from like one battle, Wu and Shu don't really ally with each other again after that. But they could still have conversations in the battlefield with each other where they both appear, obviously, so that would be that'd be a good idea. It says here in a like most wanted character poll, he placed 10th. So 10th isn't, you think 10th? That's terrible. I bet you at least 8 of those out of that 10 are probably playable now. So he's probably going to be one of the next up for Wu, definitely. I don't know how long he's prominent for. I think he's around for quite a long time though. It says here that he dies in 241, so I'm pretty sure that means that he is around pretty much until the end of the timeline. So we need more characters that are still around towards the end of the timeline, because literally at present the only characters that are around are like most of the Jing characters and like 2 Shu characters, and like that's it, which isn't really enough. And there's like at the moment there's pretty much no Wu officers that are around at the end, and they don't really have much involvement towards the end anyway. So if we do get a couple of Wu characters that are around later in the timeline, we might be able to try and incorporate Wu back into the end of the like end stages, which would be, I think, is a pretty good idea. This is quite an interesting one. So Zhou Fang. Now I'm pretty sure, I think Zhou Fang is related to Zhou Yu, so that's quite a important connection again. Now he's not, I don't necessarily think he's in a load of battles, but he does have a very important battle, the Shiting battle. It says here he was the officer that fake defected to Wei, and then obviously Deep went back to Wu. You know, apart from that though, I don't necessarily think he had a massive relevance, but you know, the more characters we add, let's face it, the less screen time characters are going to get, because they're going to get more divided. So it's important to have characters that do play, albeit a small role in the whole grand scheme of things, they play a significant role in certain battles, you know. So that's why I think Zhou Fang would be a good addition to the games. So moving on again. So this one I'm a bit, I think they definitely should make this guy playable, but I don't know how like relevant he's really going to be, apart from, so obviously Ling Sao. Now Ling Sao is obviously Ling Tong's father, who obviously infamously gets killed by Gan Ning. I think really it would really add to the whole Ling Tong Gan Ning dynamic. If you make, Ling Tong's father playable in the games, and then obviously you actually see him get killed by Gan Ning, so I think that would really make it a lot more impactful. That's pretty much the only reasoning for Ling Sao being made playable, but I think it should really be done. I mean, hell, I would argue they should have made him playable the same time as Ling Tong, in Dynasty Warriors 5. But for some reason they haven't done that. And another interesting thing is we need to take note of this Shin San Goku Musou blasting. These characters that are placing quite highly in that card game thing, they are being given their own unique designs that they could incorporate into the Dynasty Warriors series if they wanted. So the designs would pretty much be there. They just have to figure out weapons and stuff. So it would make their lives a bit easier when it comes to designing characters. So this is an interesting one. Pan Zhang. Now Pan Zhang is actually quite. He's another one of those veteran officers that seems to be around for a long time, and like whenever you're in the game playing, whenever you're either playing as Wu or you're playing against Wu, Pan Zhang always seems to be one of those generic officers that's pretty much always there. So making him playable, I think, is a good idea. Yeah, pretty much. They just make Pan Zhang one of the playable ones, and he is around again, sort of, for quite a lot of the timeline. It says he's in Sun Jian's forces. He's around still when Wu actually does get established. It says he dies in 234, so I think that's probably. I'm trying to think of when that's around. I think that's around about. It might be sort of towards the end of the Wujiang Plains area. I think it might be. I think it's around about that time period. So I mean, he's around from basically the Yellow Turbans all the way to Wujiang Plains. So he's around for pretty much the whole of the Wu story, pretty much. So yeah, Pan Zhang. So finally for Wu, we got Song Shun. I think that's how you pronounce it. Bottom of the list, right? But again, he's another one of those officers that you do see quite a lot in the games. I mean, it says here he's not around for a long time, so apparently he's only around during Sun Xuan's era. But apparently he participates in the Battle of Hefei. That's definitely one of Wu's most important battles. But he's sort of more towards the bottom of the list, so he's not massively important. It says here that he died at the Battle of Hefei. So, I mean, that could be quite interesting. I mean, it says here, while protecting Sun Xuan from Yue Jin's attacks, he was killed by Li Dian. So, instead of having Zhou Tai save Sun Xuan, they could have Song Jin fight Yue Jin and Li Dian, and obviously that's where he dies, making sure Sun Xuan gets away. So that would enhance the Hefei battle. So that's it for Wu. On to Shu. These are some quite interesting ones because, I mean, I think Shu does have a lot of characters already, but they're still, for some reason, missing out on some quite important characters, and I don't know why that is. So, the first one, Lao Huao, I think it's pronounced. This is another Cao Hong situation where it's just like, how is this guy not been made playable already? He's around for the entire. He's around for everything. He's around from the beginning of the Yellow Turbans to the fall of Shu, and he's still not been made playable. He placed second in the second card poll for the Shin Son Goku Musu Blast poll, so literally there was only one person above him. He's got his own unique model. They need to make him playable in the next game. Honestly, it's ridiculous that he hasn't been made playable yet. He should have been a Dynasty Warriors 3 character. Crazy. And here's the thing, right? At the start of the story, he's on the Yellow Turban side, so we got another character for the Yellow Turbans at the start. And we'll be getting onto that more later on. But yeah, he was one of the characters that was on the Yellow Turban side. And then he goes to Shu for the remainder of history, basically. But yeah, they need to make him playable. He is like top priority for Shu. So the next one's a very interesting one. So obviously it's Masu, one of the Shu strategists. Obviously he was basically Zhuge Liang's protege. And, you know, those of us that know the Dynasty Warriors history, unfortunately Masu does not do so well. He basically causes the loss of a couple of battles, and Zhuge Liang actually orders Masu to be executed, which is pretty tragic, really. I mean, it's especially. I mean, this is even more tragic that he's got his own unique model. He looks pretty innocent there, but he looks very young and inexperienced, as I'm sure he was. And honestly, it's pretty crazy, you know. Everyone goes on about, oh, Shu are the good guys. Zhuge Liang has him executed. I mean, say what you want about Wu and Wei. They didn't execute any of their officers for, you know, not doing well. The worst, the closest example is Eugene basically retiring from Wei because of Farm Castle, and even then that was pretty much optional. They didn't kill him, he just basically made a mistake and he sort of bowed out. No, Zhuge Liang just kills this poor kid basically. But, you know, that's why they should make him playable. It adds to it. You know, he could be a very important character in a couple of the battles. And obviously he's another strategist. Shu doesn't have that many strategists really, because obviously Pan Tong dies quite early on. Okay, you got Xiong Wei and you got Zhuge Liang. So add Masu. You know, I mean, he's not around forever either, so you end up with just Zhuge Liang and Xiong Wei in the end anyway. So you might as well give Masu his little time to shine. So on to the next one. So this is another interesting one. So we've got Shamok. Now he is basically, I don't really know how to explain this one necessarily. He's in the faction of Shu, but he's like a sort of, he's not a tribe, well he is sort of a tribesman, I guess. I think he's a bit like Wei Yan. Now, he's been in the game since 2 again, so he is a veteran sort of Shu officer. And he's obviously his most noticeable feat, I guess you could say, is the fact that he kills Gan Ning. So that's pretty crazy. Apart from that, you know, he's another good contender for being made playable, really. Yeah, pretty much. Just another good pick, really. So this is another one. So Wan Ping. So apparently he served under Cao Cao and then defected to Shu. Apparently it says he defected through the Battle of Hanzhong. Obviously that's the battle where Xiahou Yuan is killed. Interestingly enough, he looks quite young. And the funny thing is, I don't know if he is that young necessarily. It says he dies in 248. So again, I'm pretty sure 248. That's basically the end of the timeline. Yeah, it says Wang Ping will not join Huang Zhonghua and Zhuge Liang's rebellion. It says apparently, okay, so interesting. He rejoins Wei. Oh, that's quite interesting actually. He lives for basically he lives out. He survives the timeline basically. That's quite interesting. So yeah, Wang Ping is another. So it says in the second he placed 8th. Again, 8th place. That's pretty good. Like out of 8, I mean, I reckon at least, possibly all 7 of those might be playable. So Wang Ping is definitely a next contender for being made playable. So right, Ma Liang. Now, initially I thought, yeah, is he related to Zhuge Liang? No, he's not. He's actually related to Ma Su, who we've already talked about. So imagine if, you know, you added both the Ma brothers in the same game. That would be quite an interesting dynamic. Another strategist again, but there you go. You know, it would be interesting. I'm pretty sure he outlives Ma Su. So he died in 222. Ma Su died in. Oh, okay, so Ma Su actually outlives Ma Liang. But it would still be interesting to see that brotherly dynamic between the two of them. I mean, maybe they were both under Zhuge Liang, because they're both strategists. So, and you do see, you know, in Ma Liang, in a lot of the games, he is a sub-officer under Zhuge Liang, so, you know, I suppose it would be quite interesting to see the whole Ma Su, Ma Liang, Zhuge Liang, Zhuan Wei dynamic. So I think he's a good pick as well. So on to the next one, Mi Fang. Now, this is another. Okay, so it says here he is Liu Bei's brother-in-law, so that's quite a connection to Shu realistically. It says here that he served all 3 kingdoms, which is pretty crazy. One of a few, that's to be sure. Looks quite young again. You know, he defects. I believe he defects at Farm Castle. Does it say? Yeah, his most important role comes at Farm Castle, where he and Fu Shiren defect to Wu and Wei. Obviously, that leads to Guan Yu's death. So he goes from Cao Cao to Shu to Wu. So yeah, he's part of all of them. Another interesting character. He could definitely make the whole Farm Castle battle like more tragic for the obviously Shu forces. So final pick for Shu, Mi Zhu, the brother of Mi Fang. So again, another brother combo. Mi Fang's older brother, however. And he outlives. Well, he doesn't outlive, but he is still with Shu, even though his brother defects from Shu. So that's quite an interesting thing. That's quite a tragic. It's tragic, really. He participates at Sharpei, Cherbi, and Chengdu. So yeah, that's basically the Shu Force contenders. So moving on, we got the Jin. So this is what I meant by not necessarily all being fair. So literally for Jin, I've literally only got one contender, and that is Sima Yan. So Sima Yan is Sima Zhao and Wang Yuanji's son. Now here's the awkward thing about him. If you make him playable, he's only gonna like appear in like maybe one battle, maybe two, and it's gonna be right at the end of the timeline. So this is where I go back to the whole Sao Ru whole thing, where maybe they could extend the timeline a couple more battles again to incorporate later characters, because obviously, as we know, apparently the Sima clan does basically take over the three. The Sima clan ends the Three Kingdoms, but then only a couple of years after that, the Sima clan has massive infighting and actually basically ends up destroying their own rule. So that could be expanded on in the games. That is a direction they could go in, which would make things, you know, potentially more interesting. So that's why that's literally the only character I could think of for Jin, really. So moving on, this is okay. There's a lot to go over here. So we're going to try and get through these guys as quick as possible because there's quite a few. Now, can I just say, obviously, we're not going to get all these characters in the next game. We might get maybe 2 from each of the factions. Maybe, you know, you might be lucky and get maybe 3 from one of the factions, but there's no way we're going to get them all. But I think, you know, if I was a betting man, I would say the list that I've done, they're probably going to add most. They're probably going to be all from the list. I would be very surprised if they added characters that weren't on that list, to be honest. So right, so as I said, we're moving on to the others, and we got quite a lot to go through. So obviously I'm just gonna go over these two together. I'm not gonna separately talk about them. So Yuan Shao's 2 main generals, Yan Liang and Wen Chou. They probably should have been playable at least a couple of games ago. It would definitely be interesting to add some more Yuan Shao officers. Adding these two are the 2 obvious. In fact, they're probably the only choices. So you know, if we add these 2, then the Yuan Shao forces has got Yuan Shao, Zhang He, Zhen Ji, Yan Liang, and Wen Chou. That's 5. That's pretty decent. They've already got models because they're in the Shin Son Goku Musu Blast game, so that would be they're easy adds. Basically, they are. I can't imagine we go yet another game without these 2 getting added, because they are very important. They're quite important for Hulao Gate. They're very important for Guandu. I guess you could also throw them into the Yellow Turban Rebellion, I think. So this is an interesting one. So He Jin. Now he is the leader of the Yellow Turban Rebellion, basically. Now he literally only appears in like 1 battle. So you could argue, is there a point adding him as making him playable? Well, I mean, Zhang Xiao's only playable for 1 battle, so you know, having He Jin playable as well evolves the Yellow Turban Rebellion a lot more. Obviously, as we said previously, La Huao should be made playable, and he's on the Yellow Turban side, so we get a Yellow Turban character and we get a He Jin Han character. Makes sense. So moving on, Gongsun Zhang. Now this is another interesting one. He is involved in the Yellow Turban and Dong Zhuo campaigns. Zhao Yun is initially under him. The White Riders. Apart from that, he's not massively influential, but I definitely think he is a solid addition for the other forces. So yeah, Gongsun Zhang is another one. Okay, so sort of in the same vein as Gongsun Zhang, we got Hong Fu Song. Pretty much only participates in the Yellow Turban Rebellion again. But you know, maybe add in a couple of maybe really upping the amount of playable characters like around the Yellow Turban Rebellion is not a terrible idea, seeing as it is basically the first stage for most of the campaigns. So you know they appear straight away basically. Yeah, very interesting character, and I just like his name, Hong Fu Song. It's very cool. Like I just like saying that name for some reason, much like Gongsun Zhang. So Han Sui. So this is quite an interesting one. So Han Sui is basically only really important for one battle, Tonggate. He defects to Wei because he's an old friend of Cao Cao's apparently, from Ma Teng's forces. Now Ma Teng is Ma Chao's father, so you know it adds, it sort of, you know, wraps together Cao Cao, Ma Teng, Ma Chao, Han Sui, all connected again. You know, it's quite an important battle for Wei Power Tonggate. So yeah, Han Sui is a very interesting choice. Okay, so this is another interesting one. Li Ju. Basically one of Dong Zhuo's top officers. Obviously bar Lu Bu and Zhu Huang. Not Zhu Huang. Yeah, Hua Zhong, that's it. Yeah, so Li Ju is basically one of his top officers. Apparently here he kills Wang Yuan. Obviously that's Dao Chan's father, so that's something that he does. I think he also goes after Lu Bu, obviously when Lu Bu betrays Dong Zhuo as well. Interesting enough, he has got his own model for Shin Son Goku Musu Blast. Very creepy looking model. I'm not necessarily sure I would give him that for the game, but I guess you could, although I think it would be a bit weird. But yeah, Li Ju in. So he only really participates at Hulao Gate. But in the games where Lu Bu's revolt happens, he is in that stage also. And also in Dynasty Warriors 4, the Shi Sui Gate battle, I think Li Ju is actually the commander of that battle, so quite important for the Dong Zhuo faction. Next we've got Fan Zhou, another one of Dong Zhuo's officers. Another one that's quite well known. Apparently he served under Li Ju after Dong Zhuo. Not really much else to say apart from that. It's just another Dong Zhuo pick, which, you know, is cool, I guess. So moving on, we got Zhu Rong, again another one of Dong Zhuo's officers. Pretty much, you know, we're just going through him now. Another one of Dong Zhuo's officers. Not much else to say about him really. Ma Teng next. Obviously Ma Teng, as I said earlier, Ma Teng is Ma Chao's father. Obviously Han Sui defects from Ma Teng's forces. Now he's quite. So this is quite interesting. So apparently, I didn't know this. Apparently, Ma Chao rebelled, and apparently Martin was killed because of that. Apparently, he was actually with Cao Cao, which I didn't know about. So that's quite interesting. And he's got his own character model for the game. He basically just looks like an older Ma Chao, which is kind of cool, I guess. He could be a very interesting pick. Yeah. Plus, if you make him playable, then pretty much everyone at Tongate's playable, so that's cool. Yeah, so now there was one more that I didn't put down, but I literally just thought of who is quite important. I think they probably should add very soon. Li Ru. Li Ru is Dong Zhuo's strategist, basically. He could add a lot to the Hulao Gate battle, because he is always in the Hulao Gate battle, obviously, but he also always does something. You know, he's not one of those officers that just sits there like Zhu Rong. He actually does stuff. So Li Ru is a very interesting pick. So yeah, that's it for others pretty much. Moving on to the final picks. So yes, I added the Mystics. Fuji and Noir. I believe they should be re-added back to the franchise. Obviously, they're playable in Warriors Orochi, but they haven't been re-added to the Dynasty Warriors series. Now, hear me out. Here is what I would do. Right? I would make Fuji side with Wu. I would make Noir side with Wei. And obviously you got Zhou Si, and he basically already sides with Shu. That's how I would do it. I'd have Zhou Si on the Shu roster, Fuji on the Wu roster, Noir on the Wei roster, and that's what I would do. You know, okay, they didn't have any part in the stories in Dynasty Warriors 3, and then they were removed and they never came back. You know, why don't we just put them back in the game and put them under their respective factions' stories? Why not? You know, add them to the story. Because the Noir relationship with Cao Cao in the Warriors Orochi games are quite awesome. Obviously, Zhou Si already is incorporated in the Shu story. I guess you could somehow make something up with Fuji in the Wu story. Why not? Why not? You know, it'd be interesting to see them back in the games. You know, and it'd add a quite an interesting element to the games, having all the mystics, or most of the mystics in the games, sort of what's the word, propping up their leaders. You know, it'd be quite cool. So yeah, that was my list. This is all the characters, obviously, for the respective factions. Now obviously as I said, there is no way we're getting all these characters added in the next game. I think quite a few there's definitely some really standout ones. Cao Hong, Pan Zhang, La Huao, Shamok, Yan Liang Wenchou, possibly He Jin or Gongsun Zhang. I would say they're probably the top contenders. But yeah, anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Might do another video based on characters to do with the Dynasty Warriors series. I'm thinking about it all the time. This is a video I don't think a lot of people have really done. People do their favourite Dynasty Warriors characters, but they don't really do sort of what's the word? They don't really do guesses on who should be added and stuff like that. So I thought this was quite an interesting video to do, and really makes me think about the future entries of the Dynasty Warriors series, I mean, who knows? Eventually, all these characters could be playable. You know, we could end up with a roster of like 130 characters. It's possible. It is possible. But yeah. Anyway, guys, as always, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys on the next video. So yeah, see you later, guys.